There is something in you that you do not fully understand, and yet it defines every encounter you have. It is the rare aura of the true empath. And I must tell you, this is not simply a gift of sensitivity, as so many romantics might describe it. It is, in its essence, a wound that has been transmuted into perception. It is the shadow turned into vision. And if you are here, listening to me now, it is because life has carved into your soul a channel deep enough to let the unconscious stream flow through you. You see, we think of empathy as a virtue, as a divine kindness, and in some sense it is, but beneath this luminous surface lies something older, something archetypal, the inheritance of the wounded healer, the echo of Chiron, who could not heal himself, yet felt the pain of every creature. This is what you carry, and it is both a blessing and a warning. When I speak of aura, I do not mean merely the poetic glow of personality. I am speaking of that subtle psychic field, the energy that surrounds you when your inner and outer worlds are aligned with the deep unconscious. Most people live as though wrapped in thick armor. Their minds are encased in hardened attitudes, their hearts locked behind walls of fear and persona. But the true empath has, often unwillingly, removed this armor. Usually it is not by choice, but by survival. You, the empath, were forced early to read the unspoken words, to feel the tension in the room, to anticipate what others wanted before they could even form it into thought. Perhaps it was a childhood in which love was conditional and silence was dangerous. Or perhaps it was the presence of a volatile figure whose moods determined your safety. One way or another, you learned that your own feelings were secondary, that the only way to survive was to sense deeply, accurately, what others carried. This is the origin of your aura. It is not just light, but an ancient alarm system transmuted into intuition. But I caution you, because this aura, as rare as it is, draws both light and shadow toward you. You shine in a way that those who are fragmented can sense. You awaken in them both a longing and a fear. They may come to you for healing, for comfort, for the nourishment they cannot find within themselves. And if you are not careful, they will drink from your soul until you feel empty. You see, when you carry the archetype of the healer, you attract those who are not ready to heal themselves. And here lies the warning empathy. If unconscious becomes a prison, it binds you to the suffering of others, until you can no longer discern where they end and you begin. The unconscious has a way of communicating through symbols, through dreams, through strange encounters that seem fated. Perhaps you have dreamed of a forest, dark and filled with whispering voices. And you feel the trees leaning in as though they were listening to your thoughts. This is not fantasy, it is your own psyche reminding you that you are always connected to the living web of feeling that extends beyond the individual. Empaths walk through life like open instruments, and the music of the world, its grief, its rage, its beauty plays through them whether they consent or not. But to live this way without awareness is to become haunted by energies that do not belong to you. So I ask you to consider this. What is the cost of carrying everyone's pain? There is a story in Alchemy about the vessel that must hold the transformation. The vessel must be strong enough to withstand fire, to contain both poison and gold. If the vessel cracks, all is lost. You are this vessel. If you do not learn to temper the heat of the world's suffering, to discern what is yours and what is not, you will shatter, you will become resentful, exhausted, drained of the very life force that makes your aura so rare. And then you will call it fate, as though the world simply consumes people like you. But it is not fate. It is a lack of shadow work. Shadow work is the path I would lead you on. For within your shadow, the part of you have buried, ignored, or denied, lies the key to your boundaries. Most empaths believe that saying no is cruel, that distancing themselves from pain is selfish. But this is a delusion created by an overgrown persona, the mask of the good one, the self-sacrificing one who must always give. The shadow, however, contains your anger, your self-preservation, your unexpressed desire to be free of carrying what does not belong to you. To become whole, you must allow this shadow to breathe. You must let the dark forest in your dream speak, not as a threat, but as a guide. I once said that the greatest privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. For the empath, this journey is even more complex, because your sense of self has been shaped by the emotions and needs of everyone around you. It is as though you are standing before a mirror that has absorbed not just your reflection, but the reflections of everyone you have ever loved, feared, or tried to save. So when I ask, who are you? You may find it difficult to answer. You are not the sum of other people's wounds. You are not the echo of someone else's suffering. And yet, you have built a life around being the balm for others. This is noble, but it is not the end of your story. There is a moment in the life of every true empath when the unconscious demands a confrontation. It may come as a crisis, a sudden burnout, a relationship that ends in betrayal, or a dream so vivid that it shakes the foundations of your identity. This is the psyche saying, enough. It is time to reclaim your own energy. In this confrontation, you may feel as though you are abandoning those who depend on you. But understand, you cannot truly help anyone if you remain unconscious of your own boundaries. A healer who bleeds out while tending to others saves no one. You see, empathy is not meant to be a wound forever. It is meant to evolve into wisdom. At first, empathy is raw. It is like an open nerve, sensitive to every vibration. But over time, if you do the inner work, it becomes discerning. It knows when to step forward and when to withdraw. It knows that love is not about merging with the pain of others, but about holding a space where transformation can happen. This is the difference between a conscious empath and one who is merely drowning in feelings. The conscious empath knows that their aura is a mirror, not a sponge. It reflects truth, but it does not have to absorb every shadow. When I look at the archetypes that guide humanity, I see that the empath is closely related to the archetype of the mystic. The mystic feels the pulse of the world because they have walked into their own depth and returned with the understanding that all souls are connected. But this understanding does not lead them to servitude. It leads them to clarity. They see that compassion is not about carrying the burden of others, but about awakening them to carry their own. And so I urge you to stop apologizing for the boundaries you need to set. The very aura that makes you so magnetic will only grow stronger when you learn to protect it. There is another danger I must warn you of, it is subtle. Many empaths mistake their gift for a form of superiority, as though feeling deeply makes them more spiritual or evolved. This is a trap of the ego. True empathy has nothing to do with being better than others. It is, if anything, a sign of having touched the rawness of existence so profoundly that you can no longer hide behind illusions. But this does not grant you a throne. It gives you a responsibility to live with authenticity. You must remember that every aura, no matter how rare, can become clouded by pride or bitterness. If the shadow is left unexamined, I invite you to close your eyes for a moment and imagine the rare aura you carry. See it not as a static glow, but as a living field, breathing with you, expanding and contracting like the tides. Notice what images arise. Perhaps it is a golden light, or perhaps it is a pale flame flickering in the dark. Whatever it is, know that it reflects both your wounds and your strength. It is shaped by every act of kindness, but also by every boundary you have ever failed to set. Your aura is not just who you are, it is who you have allowed yourself to become. And now, as you listen to these words, you have the chance to shape it consciously. You might believe that this aura, this field of subtle energy that others feel even before you speak, is purely the result of your natural goodness. But I tell you, it is forged through fire. It is a sum of everything you have endured, everything you have witnessed, and everything you have absorbed, without understanding why the unconscious knows no boundaries. It does not respect the walls we build between each other. As an empath, you were born with cracks in your walls, or perhaps they were shattered early in your life. Those cracks became windows through which the energies of others poured into you. At first, this feels overwhelming. You wonder why a crowded room exhausts you, why the sorrow of a stranger lingers in your chest as though it were your own. You wonder why certain people leave you feeling hollow while others fill you with life. This is because your psyche is like a harp. Every vibration from the outside world resonates with your strings, whether you choose it or not. But here lies the deeper truth. The rare aura of the true empath is not just receptivity. It is alchemy. It is the unconscious ability to transform pain into understanding, to turn someone's unspoken suffering into a sense of connection that heals. However, alchemy requires fire, and fire consumes. The danger is that if you do not learn how to stoke this fire with awareness, it will burn you out long before it illuminates anyone else's path. I have seen this countless times, the sensitive souls who spend themselves until there is nothing left, who give so much of their own energy that they collapse into resentment and fatigue. They forget that to be a vessel of light, one must also know how to guard the flame. Empathy must be balanced with individuation. Individuation, as I have always taught, is the process of becoming whole, of uniting the conscious and unconscious, the persona and the shadow, the personal and the archetypal. For the empath, individuation is crucial. because without it, you will forever be swept away by the tides of other people's emotions. You must learn to descend into your own depths, to ask yourself, what do I truly feel? It sounds simple, but for many empaths, it is the hardest question of all. You have lived for so long as a mirror that you have forgotten how to see your own face. The aura you carry becomes clouded when you cannot distinguish your light from the reflections of others. There is a dream I once interpreted for a woman who was deeply empathic. In her dream, she was carrying a bowl of water through a marketplace. Every person she passed dipped their hands into her bowl, taking water for themselves, and soon the bowl was empty. She woke with a sense of deep sadness. Do you see the meaning? This is the life of an unconscious empath. You offer your water freely, but no one refills the bowl. If you are not careful, you will believe that this is your purpose, to give until there is nothing left. But in the dream's next scene, which she did not notice until we spoke, a fountain appeared. It was hidden in the corner of the marketplace, flowing endlessly. The fountain represented her own inner source, the self, the wellspring of archetypal energy that exists in all of us. The task of the empath is to find this fountain, to learn how to draw from it, rather than from their own limited reserves. Only then can the giving become sustainable and the aura remain vibrant rather than depleted. The archetype of the mother often manifests strongly in empaths, even in those who are not mothers by biology or gender. It is the instinct to nurture, to soothe, to hold the suffering of others as though it were a fragile child. But when the mother archetype becomes inflated, it can turn destructive. It leads to martyrdom, to the belief that one must sacrifice everything for others. This is not true empathy, it is unconscious compulsion. True empathy understands the balance of giving and receiving. It knows that boundaries are not walls of cruelty, but gates of clarity. Without these gates, your aura becomes porous, and soon you are carrying burdens that were never meant for you. The shadow then grows restless, whispering to you through exhaustion, irritability, or even illness. The body begins to carry what the psyche refuses to release. I warn you, two of the archetype of the victim. Many empaths, feeling the weight of the world, unconsciously identify with suffering itself. They begin to see their sensitivity as a curse, as though they were doomed to be drained by everyone they meet. This is not the truth. It is a narrative created by the shadow to keep you from your power. The real power of the empath is not in absorbing pain, but in transforming it. But to do this, you must first stop defining yourself by the wounds you carry. You must see that empathy is not about drowning in the collective unconscious, but about learning how to navigate its depths. Think of it like diving into the ocean. If you do not know how to swim, you will be swept under. But if you learn, the same waters that once threatened to consume you will become your ally. The collective unconscious is filled with symbols that can guide you if you are willing to pay attention. Have you noticed the animals that appear in your dreams? The serpent, the deer, the owl. These are not random. They are messengers of your own psyche, revealing truths about how your empathy is being used or misused. The serpent, for example, may represent transformation, the shedding of old skin, the renewal of your boundaries. The deer might symbolize gentleness, but also vulnerability, reminding you to protect your heart without hardening it. The owl, with its wide, watchful eyes, speaks of wisdom and the ability to see in the dark, the gift of perceiving the hidden emotions in others. Each of these symbols tells a story about your aura and what it needs to remain clear and strong. I want you to remember that your aura is not static. It changes as you change. When you are balanced, grounded in your own self, your aura radiates with clarity and draws in those who are ready to heal. But when you are fragmented, when you have abandoned your own needs, your aura becomes like a beacon for chaos. It attracts those who unconsciously seek to project their wounds onto someone else. These are the emotional vampires. Though I hesitate to use such a dramatic term, they are not evil, they are simply lost in their own shadow. But you cannot allow yourself to be their endless source of energy. You must recognize when someone comes not to grow, but to feed on the light you carry. This recognition is not unkindness, it is discernment. And discernment is love in its highest form. There is a profound solitude that comes with being a true empath. You see and feel things that others do not. You sense the undercurrents in conversations, the hidden grief behind a smile, the unspoken tension between words. This can make you feel alien, as though you are living in a dimension slightly different from everyone else. But this solitude is not a punishment. It is a calling. The archetype of the seer, the oracle, lives within you. To carry such perception is to stand at the threshold between the conscious world and the mysteries of the unconscious. And I tell you, the world needs such souls now more than ever, but not souls who are burnt out or broken. It needs empaths who have learned to stand firm in their own center, who have turned their gift into a conscious tool rather than a source of suffering. I will give you an image to hold. Imagine a candle in a dark room. The candle does not rush toward the darkness to fix it. It does not exhaust itself by trying to illuminate every corner. It simply burns, steady and bright. And by doing so, it naturally gives light. This is the way of the conscious empath. You do not need to absorb every shadow to bring healing. You only need to stay connected to your own flame. When you burn from within, others will find their way to your light, and the right ones will light their own candles beside you. But you must remember, not everyone who approaches you comes to light a candle. Some come with the wind of their chaos, and you must protect your flame from being extinguished. The rare aura of a true empath is not born from perfection, but from the willingness to remain open in a world that has tried again and again to close you. It is the softness that survived the storm. Yet, this softness is not weakness. It is, paradoxically, the truest form of strength. For to feel so deeply and still remain standing requires more courage than most can comprehend. And yet, I must remind you, the gift of feeling is not the end of the journey. It is the doorway. To stand in that doorway without moving forward is to remain forever overwhelmed by the tide of sensations and emotions, both yours and those of others. You must walk through it, into the deeper chambers of your psyche, where empathy becomes not just a reflex, but a conscious act rooted in wisdom. When you walk this path, you will begin to notice how your aura shifts with your inner landscape. When you are consumed by the unprocessed emotions of others, your aura becomes heavy. Like a fog, people may still be drawn to you, but what they feel is confusion rather than clarity. They sense the unresolved pain that you carry, and unconsciously they mirror it back to you. This is why unhealed empaths often find themselves surrounded by chaos, trauma, or relationships that feel one-sided. The psyche is always teaching through reflection. If you are drowning in other people's shadows, life will continue to send you mirrors of that entanglement until you awaken. The awakening of the empath is not a single moment, but a gradual recognition. I am not here to be consumed. I am here to be a bridge between the conscious and the unconscious, between what is felt and what is spoken, between the wound and the possibility of healing. But the bridge must be rooted on both sides to remain standing. If you only anchor yourself in others' pain and forget your own foundation, you will collapse. This is why solitude is so necessary. It is in solitude that you learn the language of your own soul. It is there that you discover which feelings are truly yours and which are echoes of the collective unconscious. The collective unconscious is a realm of archetypes, of patterns that shape all human behavior. When you feel someone's sadness or rage or longing, you are not just sensing the individual, you are touching an ancient river that flows through all of humanity. This is why the feelings of others can seem so overwhelming. They are archetypal, vaste, primal, but remember, you are not meant to carry the river. You are meant to learn how to let it flow through you without drowning. This is where symbols become your allies. Symbols are the language of the unconscious. When you dream of a storm, it is not merely a weather event, it is the turbulence of emotions. The collective energies seeking release. When you dream of a child, it may not be about an actual child, but about the innocent part of yourself that longs to be protected and seen. Pay attention to these symbols. Your dreams, your sudden inner images, even the patterns you see in the world around you, are all messages from your deeper self. The empath's aura is naturally attuned to these messages, but without awareness. They can feel like chaos. With awareness, they become guidance. When you sense the heaviness of another person's energy, ask yourself, what is this teaching me about my own shadow? For often, what you feel in others is a mirror of what you have not yet faced within yourself. This is not to blame you for the emotions, but to show you that life is always inviting you to become more conscious. I have spoken often about the shadow, that hidden part of the psyche where we store everything we have rejected or feared in ourselves. For the empath, the shadow often contains the very boundaries and strength that they have suppressed. You have been conditioned to believe that anger is wrong, that self-protection is selfish, that to care for yourself is to abandon others. This is a distortion. Your shadow may hold the healthy rage that says, no more. It may hold the fierce instinct that refuses to be drained. Until you integrate this shadow, your empathy will remain incomplete, for it will lack the fire of selfhood that keeps compassion alive without turning into self-sacrifice. Imagine for a moment that your aura is like a garden without boundaries. Anyone can enter and trample the flowers, leaving you barren and tired. But if you build a fence, not a wall, but a clear, living boundary, your garden thrives. You can invite others in when you choose, but you also know when to close the gate. This is not cruelty. This is love for the life you are cultivating within you. And when your garden blooms, the world benefits. The fragrance of your flowers reaches those who are ready to appreciate it, without you having to give away all your soil and water to those who come with empty hands and endless demands. There is a subtle shift that happens when an empath begins to live this way. The aura changes from being a sponge to being a mirror. Instead of absorbing everything, it reflects truth back to those who come near. Some will find this uncomfortable because the mirror shows them what they are not ready to see. They may project their shadows onto you, blaming you for what is really their own inner turmoil. Do not take this personally. This is the nature of projection. The key is to know yourself so well that these projections cannot take root in you. When you stand firm in your own center, their shadows pass by like clouds, unable to block your light. This is not to say that empathy becomes detached or cold. On the contrary, it becomes warmer, more authentic, when you are no longer entangled in everyone else's emotions. You can truly listen. You can hold space without losing yourself. You can offer compassion without resentment. This is what I call conscious empathy. It is empathy that has been refined through the fire of self-awareness. It no longer seeks validation through giving, nor does it confuse self-sacrifice with love. It simply flows like a river that knows its course. I want to speak of the archetype of the wounded healer. This is an ancient pattern seen in myths across cultures, the one who is able to heal others precisely because they have known suffering. Jung, the centaur, was wounded by an arrow that would never heal. Yet he became a great teacher and healer because of his wound. The empath carries this archetype, often unknowingly. Your sensitivity is born of the wounds you have endured. But the danger is that you may remain identified with the wound, believing that your purpose is to bleed for others. This is a misunderstanding of the archetype. The wounded healer does not heal by being perpetually broken. They heal by transforming their wound into wisdom, by turning their pain into a source of insight and compassion. Ask yourself, have you been carrying your wound like a badge, as though it defines you, or have you begun to see it as the gateway to something deeper? The rare aura you carry shines most brightly when it is no longer dimmed by the unresolved pain of the past. This does not mean erasing your past, it means integrating it, seeing its meaning, allowing it to shape you without imprisoning you. When you do this, your aura becomes not just rare but resilient. It no longer flickers in the presence of chaos. It becomes steady, like a flame that cannot be extinguished. There is a profound power in this steadiness. People will feel it. They will be drawn to you, not because you are endlessly available to their needs, but because your presence awakens something in them. They will sense that you have walked through fire and emerged whole. Some will seek to take this power for themselves, but you will recognize this now and guard your energy with discernment. Others will simply feel inspired, as though being near you reminds them of their own capacity for light. This is the true purpose of your gift, not to save everyone. but to awaken them. There comes a time when the true empath must stop running from their own reflection. You have spent so much of your life gazing into the emotions of others, feeling their joy and sorrow as if it were your own, that you may have forgotten how to stand still and face yourself. But you cannot fully understand the aura you carry until you see its source. And its source is not outside of you, it is within, in the quiet depths of your own unconscious, where your true self waits like a hidden treasure buried beneath the layers of who you were told to be. Most people live at the surface of life, unaware of the archetypes shaping their every thought and action. But you, as an empath, are constantly pulled into the depths, sensing what others cannot name. This is both your gift and your challenge. You have a natural connection to the collective unconscious, that vast ocean of symbols, instincts, and forgotten truths that belongs to all of humanity. When you feel someone's pain, you are not merely feeling them as an individual. You are touching a universal wound, a pattern that has existed since the dawn of time. That is why your empathy often feels so overwhelming. You are not just carrying one person's story, but the resonance of countless stories layered into the fabric of your soul. And yet, your task is not to drown in this ocean. It is to navigate it with the awareness of a dreamer who knows they are dreaming. When you dream at night, you encounter strange images, surreal landscapes, and symbolic figures. At first, they may seem random or chaotic. But if you look closely, they are speaking the language of your unconscious, showing you truths you cannot see in waking life. In the same way, your empathic aura picks up on the dream of others, their unconscious signals, their unspoken fears and desires. To master your gift, you must learn to read these dreams without losing yourself in them. I will tell you something many will not. Your aura is not merely a passive field of energy. It is alive. It responds to your thoughts, your emotions, your unconscious beliefs. If you see yourself as powerless, your aura contracts and you become a magnet for those who seek to dominate or drain you. But if you see yourself as sovereign, as a being with the right to exist, to feel, to say no, your aura expands. And you naturally repel those who come with ill intent. This is why inner work is so important for the empath. The unconscious beliefs you carry will shape not only your life, but also the way others interact with your energy. If you secretly believe that love must be earned through self-sacrifice, your aura will broadcast that signal, and you will attract those who demand everything while giving little in return. But when you begin to do the shadow work, when you confront those old wounds, those buried memories of those unspoken resentments, your aura changes. It becomes clearer, stronger, more radiant. You no longer carry the vibration of someone who is easy to manipulate, because you have integrated the parts of yourself that once made you vulnerable. This is not about becoming hard or cold. On the contrary, it is about becoming whole. Wholeness is the true power of the empath. When you are whole, you can feel deeply without being consumed. You can love without losing yourself. You can give without being drained, because you are drawing from an inner well that never runs dry. There is an archetype I see emerging in many empaths the archetype of the alchemist. The alchemist takes base metal and transforms it into gold. In psychological terms, this means taking the raw material of your pain, your sensitivity, your wounds, and turning them into wisdom, into insight, into a presence that elevates those around you. But this process requires fire. It requires you to face the parts of yourself. You would rather avoid the anger, the fear, the loneliness that lives beneath your compassion. Many empaths are afraid of these emotions, believing they will make them unkind or unworthy. But these emotions are not your enemy. They are the very fuel that will ignite your transformation if you allow yourself to feel them fully and consciously. I want you to imagine for a moment that you are standing before a mirror that shows not your physical form but your energetic self. What do you see? Perhaps you see a light flickering like a candle in the wind. Perhaps you see colors shifting and swirling. Some bright, some shadowed. This is your aura, not static, but alive, reflecting everything you have experienced. Do you notice where the light dims? Those are the places where you have given too much of yourself, where you have allowed your energy to leak out in an attempt to save others. But the beauty of this vision is that you can restore it, you can reclaim your energy by calling back all the fragments of yourself that you have left in the hands of others. Close your eyes and see those fragments returning, like birds flying home to the nest. Feel how your light grows stronger as you welcome them back. The empath's path is not about avoiding pain. It is about learning to see pain as a teacher. Every time you feel the sorrow of another, ask yourself, what is this teaching me about compassion, about boundaries, about my own soul? Pain is not an enemy to be fought. It is a messenger pointing to what needs to be healed. But you must remember that not every pain you feel is yours to heal. Some pain belongs to others, and your task is only to witness it, to hold space without absorbing it. This is perhaps the hardest lesson for an empath, to care without carrying, to love. Without losing oneself. You may wonder why you were given this gift, why you were born with such sensitivity in a world that often feels harsh and unkind. I believe it is because the world needs people who can feel. We live in a time when many have become numb, disconnected from their own hearts. Your aura is a reminder of what it means to be fully alive, to be attuned to the subtle currents of the human soul. But you cannot offer this gift if you are exhausted, if you have allowed your sensitivity to turn into suffering. You must first learn to nurture yourself, to protect your own light. Only then can you be a true beacon for others. Think of the mystics, the sages, the healers of old. They were not simply people who felt deeply. They were people who had learned to harness their feelings, to transmute their pain into wisdom. They spent time in solitude, in silence, in communion with the deeper truths of life. They understood that empathy without inner strength is like water without a container. It spills everywhere and is wasted. Your aura is your container. It is the vessel that holds your gift. You must tend to it, cleanse it, strengthen it. This is not a selfish act. It is a sacred responsibility. I want to give you a vision of what is possible Imagine yourself standing in the center of a room, surrounded by people with all their emotions, their desires, their unspoken fears. You feel it all, but you are not overwhelmed. Instead, you stand rooted like a tree with deep roots sinking into the earth. The winds of other people's energies blow around you, but they do not knock you down. You can sense their pain without taking it on, because you know where you end and they begin. You are a witness, a guide, a presence of clarity. This is the power of a conscious empath. This is what your rare aura is meant to become, not a sponge, but a sanctuary. There is a silence that all true empaths must learn to cultivate, a silence within the mind, the heart, and the soul. This silence is not emptiness, but presence. It is the pause between the in-breath and out-breath, where you remember that you exist beyond the emotions that rush through you. Too often, you are swept into the current of someone else's story, someone else's pain, as though you were a leaf floating on the river. But you are not a leaf, you are the riverbed itself, the still foundation beneath the water. And when you remember this, your aura begins to shine in a way that no longer wavers or fades. I have observed time and again how the empath's gift can become both a mirror and a wound. You are so attuned to the needs of others that you may begin to feel invisible yourself, as though your existence is validated only by how much you can heal or soothe. This illusion is dangerous because it places your value outside of you. Your rare aura does not come from your usefulness to others. It comes from the sheer fact of your being. It radiates not because you are endlessly giving, but because you are rooted in authenticity. You must understand that the greatest act of empathy is not to lose yourself for someone else, but to stand so fully in your truth that your very presence awakens others to their own. The psyche speaks through dreams and symbols, and it will often send empaths a warning when they are giving too much. Perhaps you have dreamed of being chased, or of drowning, or of carrying a heavy load that you cannot put down. These dreams are not random. They are messages from your unconscious telling you that you are bearing more than your soul can sustain. Listen to them. They are your own inner voice calling you back home. If you ignore them, life will send louder signals: fatigue, illness, emotional collapse, until you have no choice but to stop and reclaim your energy. There is a paradox in empathy that few understand. To truly feel others, you must first feel yourself. If you are disconnected from your own emotions, your empathy becomes distorted. You begin to project your unhealed wounds onto others, seeing their pain as your own and confusing their needs with yours. This is why shadow work is not optional, it is essential. You must sit with your own shadow, your fears, your suppressed anger, your longing to be seen, and bring them into the light of consciousness. Only then can you discern where you end and the other begins. The rare aura of the empath is magnetic because it carries the resonance of both light and shadow. People feel safe with you, not because you are endlessly cheerful or perfect, but because you have touched the depths of suffering and survived. You have walked through the underworld of your own psyche, and your presence tells others, you can survive this too. But this power comes at a cost. Every journey into the unconscious demands something from you. It strips away illusions, forces you to face uncomfortable truths, and requires you to let go of old identities. The empath who resists this process becomes stuck, trapped in cycles of exhaustion, repeating the same patterns with the same draining people, always wondering why life feels so heavy. I want you to remember that the aura is a living symbol. It reflects not just your mood, but your entire relationship with the unconscious. When you ignore your inner world, you are dull, becoming like a mirror covered in dust. When you honor your inner world, when you listen to your dreams, pay attention to your instincts, and respect your boundaries, your aura brightens. It becomes like a clear lake reflecting the sky. Others feel this clarity and are drawn to it, not to take from you, but to find their own reflection in your stillness. The world will always test you. There will always be those who sense your openness and mistake it for weakness. They will try to pull you into their storms, to make you responsible for their emotions. But you are not here to carry everyone's storm. You are here to remember that you are the sky vast, unshaken, eternal. The clouds of others may pass through, but they do not define you. This understanding does not make you cold or distant. It makes you wise. It allows you to love without losing yourself, to care without collapsing under the weight of someone else's pain. Let me give you an image to hold. Imagine yourself as a lighthouse on the edge of a stormy sea. The waves crash, the wind howls, the ships are tossed in the dark. But the lighthouse does not run to save every ship. It stands firm, shining its light, guiding those who are ready to see. This is what your aura is meant to be. Not a square, but a guide. Not a sponge, but a beacon. The ships that wish to find the shore will follow your light. But it is not your task to sail into the storm on their behalf. Your task is to stay lit. The empath who understands this becomes unstoppable. You no longer waste your energy trying to fix what was never yours to fix. You no longer feel guilty for resting, for saying no, for choosing your own well-being. Instead, you begin to see that by protecting your energy, you are actually serving others more deeply. When you are whole, your very presence is healing. You do not need to speak or act. Your aura does the work. People feel calmer around you, not because you have absorbed their pain, but because you have learned to stand in your own truth. In the end, the rare aura you carry is not just a reflection of your empathy. It is the reflection of your journey toward wholeness. Empathy is only the beginning. The true calling is integration, to unite all the parts of yourself, the light and the shadow, the wounded child and the wise adult, the giver and the receiver. When you do this, you become more than an empath. You become a living symbol of what it means to be fully human, open yet strong, compassionate yet discerning, vulnerable yet unbreakable. So I ask you now, what will you do with this rare aura? Will you continue to let it be drained by those who cannot yet see their own light, or will you honor it, protect it, and let it shine as it was meant to? Not as a sacrifice, but as a gift. The choice is yours. But remember this, the world needs empaths who are awake. It needs those who have turned their sensitivity into wisdom, who can walk into the chaos of life without losing themselves. You are such a soul, or you would not be here, listening, feeling these words in the quiet of your heart. And if you ever doubt your strength, look back at all you have survived. Look at the storms you have endured, the pain you have transmuted into understanding. That is your proof. Your aura is not rare because you have never been broken. It is rare because you have been broken, and yet you still choose to love, to feel, to see. This is the highest form of courage. And it is the essence of what it means to live a truly conscious life